I feel like media and religion, like they just brainwash literally us, and it's just we have to do the job of unlearning. So it's like it's enough. I think we know enough of what not to do, now. So it's like unlearning and starting to have these conversations. Like, what is it that we do want? You know, is religion really our thoughts, or what we were like just thrown onto us? That's what I realized. So like, these are not my thoughts. I was like, I want to have sex. I'm like, I want to masturbate. Like, if I wanted to be
okay. Welcome to the Tea On, where we typically sip tea and we talk about things. But if you have,
I don't have my tea, but I have some water.
Perfect. Water's good too, honey. Hydration. I am so excited to be sitting down with such a lovely and vibrant and powerful soul, Miss Erika Chavez. And this is a topic that I've been wanting to talk about for a very long time. It stemmed from the fact that a friend of mine and I, we had this conversation about just like so many different like discrepancies within our own sexual journey as women, but as men too. I think there's a lot that we don't talk about, and it like ends up being these like taboo matters that hurt us more than help us. And so I think there's a lot of power in conversation, and I want to have this conversation just about, sexual education and how we can own our sexual power. As I know you said, it's like a life force energy, right? That you can use. Yeah, totally. And I thought you were the perfect person to have it with, because you, your Instagram page, Orgasmic Frequency, it like, you do so well at educating the public in a way that's a way to connect and a way that is digestible. So I'm so excited to talk and introduce yourself to the people. Introduce why, how you fell into this world and everything.
Thank you. Such a lovely introduction. Hi guys. So my name's Erika. My handle Orgasmic Frequency. And it's so funny because I just had no idea I was going to end up talking about sex, having these Zoom calls about sex. Like, it was never in my thoughts. I was into fitness. Like, my username before was FitLiz. So I was just like, that was my future, all of a sudden I'm here talking about this. But it's because, like you said, the communication is so necessary. We need to talk about this. Like, especially women. I feel like we are always so ashamed. I grew Catholic, so for 21 years I never had sex. I'm just like, what in the world? Like, that's just so crazy. But I always felt this like fire in me, and it was just like, what is that? But I always felt so like dirty about it, and I was in a relationship for like almost 5 years and I never had sex. Like, I did things, but I never had sex for the fact that I was like so ashamed. I was like, no, it's until marriage, until like I'm in a white dress on the honeymoon with rose petals by the beach. Like, I'm like, it didn't turn out, and it's okay. It's okay. And when it did turn out, it was just like, it wasn't anything. I'm like, this is it. Like, this was that, like, it was good, but like me inside as a woman, I was like, what? I lost something. I was like, like, that is just such a bad concept, that you're losing your virginity. Like, I think that's where it starts, communication on words, like, so I feel like that's why I just dove into this, because as a 14-year-old girl, I remember when I was in my relationship, I didn't know anything. I would Google everything, like, could you get pregnant through your underwear? Like,
right, no, literally.
Like that, where you're like, what? Looking back at it, but it's just like, at that moment, it was like the end of the world for me. I'm like, can I? And as Google will always tell you, there's a percentage that it could happen. And then you're like, fuck, I could be that percent, And so I just want to talk to people like that. And before, like, I used to be a teacher to like 6th graders. So I feel like I'm used to talking in like just a simple way. Like, it doesn't have to be too deep. It doesn't have to be like all these words, like bluff words that we use sometimes, like spiritual words, and it's like, no, like, let's get straight to like just us talking, just like me and you right now. We're talking, but we're learning so much from one another. And, you're going to share this, and it's like, you guys watching, it's like, oh, I hope, you learn and pick up something, So that's pretty much how I ended up here. Because I want to speak on this.
You're such a divine soul. Oh my gosh. And you're right. The way to communicate it should be direct. I don't think we need the fluff words, like you said, just let's get to the point of this. And you already brought up such an important point that I'm just going to segue into my first question, which is that, like, there is such a large role that religion and media play in how we view sex and how we view our own sexuality. And I just wanted to pick your brain on what your perspective on that was. And do you think it's harming us more than it's helping us? And, you know, that kind of thing.
It's so good that you want to shine light on this, because it's such a sensitive topic, religion, you know. And before I even say anything on it, I respect everyone's religion. I respect everybody's. I'm a vegan. If you like, you know, I have no vegan friends around me, and that's fine, because it's not about me. It is about what we're trying to change. So we start by being the example of it. Mm-hmm. So right now it's just like, I'm by, you know, we're not talking about any religion in specific, but religion will always install fear in you. You know, it's like fear God, but we misinterpret, like we should fear God, you know, whatever you believe in the sense that you should not feel more than God is, you know, like you shouldn't feel superior than God. That's what I feel should be, like fear to God, not like, oh, I cannot masturbate. Like I just saw my sister, my mom's forcing her to do her her first communion or something like that. She's already 18, and we come from a Mexican household, so it's like the communion, if you speak Spanish, like comunión, like, you know, it's like important, you must have it. So it's like, I saw a book that she was reading, and it said like all the things that you couldn't do because they were sin, therefore you had to confess them to the priest. And I was like, masturbation was like one of the top ones. And I always grew up thinking too, like masturbation, because God is watching me and like I'm afraid. So it's just like, I think that kind of fear that religion installs just always makes you feel like you are not in power of your body because somebody else is there watching over it. Right. And as good as God, you know, they paint God, it's like, you should know who God is. Like, God created you. There should be no shame or dirtiness in that. Like, God created you. It's all this media, you know, that Hollywood stuff, like the movies, like it's supposed to be like this, and you cannot fall in love only once. And it's even that, like, you know, it's just religion will tell you could only get married once. And if you know, if it doesn't work out with that person, like, you're bad. But it's just like, we're humans. We don't understand one another. You know, it's like, if it doesn't work out, that's fine. But it shouldn't be like, oh, you're a dirty person now. Like, you don't belong anywhere else. So I feel like media and religion, like, they just brainwash literally us. And it's just, we have to do the job of unlearning. So it's like, it's enough. I think we know enough of what not to do, you know, now. So it's like unlearning and starting to have these conversations. Like, what is it that we do want? You know, is religion really our thoughts, or what we were like just thrown onto us? That's what I realized. So like, these are not my thoughts. I was like, I want to have sex. I'm like, I want to masturbate. Like, if I want to do yes. And it takes so long up to this point. Like, it still hits, you know, like I'm just like, how am I going to handle this now? You know, when I do meet people. And I'm like, oh, because you still feel like ashamed. So
right. No, totally. And it's so empowering to recognize what you need to unlearn. And it's so powerful to recognize what beliefs aren't yours. This is a theme that's been playing out in so many different avenues in my life. But like, in a patriarchal society and with media and even religion playing such a role, it's like, you don't realize what beliefs were sort of forced upon you. And when it comes to sexuality, so many, I mean, masturbation, I think, is like one of the biggest forms of self-care and self-love, if anything. And so that brings me to this concept of I don't know, sort of like this shame that I think especially women have to deal with when it comes to sexuality. And I wanted to ask you just how you think we could step back into our power and, above all else, find our bodies sacred in a way that we don't feel like we need to sort of like save it for somebody or something, but rather like we feel empowered in our bodies. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like I feel this energy in me, but I haven't had enough experiences with guys to be like, this is how I do it. You get me? It's like, I only think, because not every guy will be worth your energy. Like, you just, as much as you want to experiment having sex, I want to learn. Sex is a sport. I want to learn how to do this thing, you know? It is like, it's literally a sport. So it's like, I'm a very athletic person. So in my head, it's like, you got to know ways, techniques, everything. So it's like, I'm seeing like that, but it's like, I just can't do it with anybody, because it's just, not everybody deserves that energy exchange from you.
It is an energy exchange. Yeah, absolutely. And like you talk about in some of your posts about like the life force energy that comes just from your vagina. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you just can't go about and like oh, you know, he's cute and I'm gonna do this. Like, no, like who could like water you? You know, that's what it is. And that's why sex feels so, I think that's why people go around walking miserable, because they don't feel fulfilled. Like, you can have all the sex you want, but you need that intimacy that you build. So I feel like it goes back to like to yourself, you know, like you should like, in order to take that shame away, like you were asking, like I feel like personally is knowing your body. Like I think it starts as simple as that, because I don't know about you guys, especially girls watching, I think guys have less of a stigma on masturbation because it seems more cool for them, like, oh, I'm a and then this, like, it's just something cool. But for girls, it's like, huh, like, you know, it's weird. It seems like, oh, you must be a little slut, you know, those little things. And it's like, huh, like, no, we all just want pleasure, and that's okay. So it starts by seeing pleasure as pleasure, you know. If you're doing things that don't align with your pleasure, you will feel dirty. So don't do those things. But also, you know, like, try like grabbing a mirror. If you're a female, grab a mirror and get to know your own vagina. That to me caused the most resistance, because I just couldn't. Like, I was just like, like, this feels so wrong. Like, I just thought so. Breakthrough, I think we should start just as basic as that. Like, no inner work, no, you know, deep things. Just do that. Like, grab a mirror, look at your vagina, and until the point you get comfortable, when you could like poke around and you could tell her hi and you could be like, we're gonna have a good day. Like, when you could do that, then I feel like you take back your power. And when you meet guys, you're like, I'm in control of this thing. Like, it's, I don't know if you guys read the book Pussy, but I really recommend it. And it says like your vagina will tell you yes or no. And it's just like, it will. And that's why you have to connect with your own body, and not just your vagina, but, you know, but like your body. You have to feel good. If you have some little guts, if you have some like cellulite, like, you know, if you want to change it, go for it. Like, work out. Like, me personally, I you know, I'm all for everything, but me personally, like, I know when I do that, because I'm letting myself go. So to me, it represents something else. So know what you mean when you talk to yourself in the mirror. It's so important, you know. And yeah, I think it just starts as basic as that, to get your power back, you know.
Oh my God.
Hands-on activities.
Hands-on activities, baby. First of all, you're dropping so many gems, and I really, really, really hope that anybody who's watching this really takes heed to this advice, because it's a matter of like just getting to know yourself and feeling comfortable with, you know, imagine feeling disconnected from your own vagina. It's like, that's gonna manifest in so many other insecurities, you know what I mean?
Yes. And even, I don't know, you guys could look around and you will see certain people, not just females, males too, they walk differently when they're empowered. They're
yes,
that's why I always look at guys. Like, it's weird, but it's like, I check out how they walk. If they walk slumpy and like that, you know, they're kind of like out of it, lazy. There's something off. They walk with their straight back, chest out, you know, they walk slow. You're like, okay, you know, that's someone more dependable. That's someone who could like just take care of me better, you know. Like, we're just animals at the end of the day, you know. Like, we're led by our instincts. We're very it's all very biological too, you know. We can't forget that part. So it's like, in order to not like work against the grain, you know, because sometimes it's like we want things to be a certain way, but at the end of the day, we are like, you know, we're animal. We have like those traits. Like, we're attracted to certain things and for a certain reason.
Absolutely. It's
So,
energetic.
yeah.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh. What a beautiful point that you bring up too, which is that like the fact that like connecting with your sexual energy is not just something that plays out in sex. It's a way that you carry yourself. It's an energy that you feel. It's, you know, when you walk into a room and somebody sort of commands your attention, they're in their sexual power, you know, it pours out into so many different things. So thank you for that. It's empowering.
Of course, it's like you right now that you're talking, it's like you're giving me all of that energy, you know. And that's
Thank
why
you, Queen.
you know, it's like it right here is just going back and
Sacral
forth.
chakra.
Exactly.
How can we better sexual education? Because I think there is a disconnect from like how, I don't know, how especially young boys and young girls, how they receive the information, you know. How can we make it so that there aren't so many traumas and so many taboos and so many stigmas when we get older? Do you have an idea about that?
Yeah, I actually do, because like I said, I used to be a teacher, so I have hands-on experience on this. I had the same group of students, so I was an after-school teacher. So it was super cool that I had the same group of students from second grade to sixth grade. So I got to see them grow and develop, and I got to see what like helped them expand. So I remember when they were in fifth grade. You know when they give you that class? No, it's sixth grade where they separate the boys and the girls, and the girls get like a pad bag, and you watch you watch the baby come out of the vagina, and everybody's disgusted. So they went through that, and I was like, oh my god, they grew up. Like, I'm like, okay, I have to help them because now they're getting information, and it's not the right information. I'm like, so what could I do? So what I did with them is one day I just said the word sex, and they're like, oh, and I was just like, why are you guys looking at me like that? I'm asking, what is your gender? Like, you know, are you a female? Are you a male? Like, you know? And they're like, oh, that means that. And I was like, yeah, you see, you can't judge something right away. I was like, you have to be open-minded. I was like, okay, so when you're open-minded, doesn't mean you have to agree with it, but you have to just take it into consideration. So them, I was like, just give me a chance. Okay, I'm like, sex, let's all say sex. And they're like, you know, they're breaking that barrier. So it's just like getting them aware, knowing that it's not bad. Like sex also means this, like, you know, it's not just this dirty word that you hear in music. And so putting them the right definitions to the right words. And then I said, oh yeah, penis. That's what you guys have. I'm like, what? There's a finger. I'm like, what do you want me to call that part? It's a penis. Like, you get me. I'm like, don't let society, I'm like, school, they try to make you feel bad about it, you know? I'm like, but why? And then you make them think for themselves. They're like, true, why? And then they will start feeling power in using those words because it's just like, yeah, I'm thinking for myself. There's no reason to. They might say, oh, my dad said it was bad because of church. But then, like, if they're smart enough, they will know that that's still not them, you know? So a lot of my students, like, we sat in a circle and we talked about periods. The girls spoke about it. The boys were like, but they were paying attention. I'm like, so boys, be nicer to the girls when they have their tummy hurts. I was like, help them carry their backpack, bring them water. And they were just like, okay. So I told them, what questions do you have? And they would all have questions like, but why do we bleed? Or like boys, like, but why do we start growing armpit hair? Like, they just have so many questions. So I feel like it starts educating by listening to them. Like, what do you think about sex? Because they're very advanced at this point. Like, music will teach them that.
Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh, especially kids that are coming up now in an age of social media. I mean, they're going to receive the information regardless. So it's a rather of like, can you cultivate a safe space to where they can ask the right person, and like someone like you know what I mean, who's
ask them like, what do you think about this? Like, does it scare you? Are you like a stranger to it? Like, what is it? And then from there, like address. But for sure, like, I think it would be awesome to start with kids. I would love to do something like that, you know, like that.
I think that is your purpose. I'm just gonna flat out say it. I mean, I think you have layers and layers of purpose, because just the way that you communicate is insanely beautiful. But like, I think you could really make, above all else, like a huge impact on how this new generation is empowered and how they're raised and their viewpoint on sex, and that can shift the way that the narrative on sexuality in our country has gone. Because there's such a divine purpose in that. So please step into that, and please, if you can pursue that.
I never really thought about it like that until now, you know, and it's just crazy to think that this Zoom call could lead to so many things. Like, oh, because of that Zoom call, like, I, you know, grew into that. Like, it sounds so right. I miss teaching. Like, I miss teaching stuff that says, like, true, why not? And I already have handles, like,
and the fact that you're so comfortable with saying it directly, and I think that's what kids need. And I don't think, you know, we should walk around it and you teeter and totter and like
make it so professional, and like, you know, and it's like my kids, I tell them, like, I'm just a grown-up. I'm like, I'm not smarter than you. I just have more experience than you, but I'm not smarter. So you could teach me stuff, and I could teach you stuff. And like, another thing to touch on, and I know there's another sensitive topic, but like abuse, sexual abuse. I had one student who was sexually abused, like, you know, and as a second grader, and she told us, like, she was able to share that with the class. Like, she was that safe in, you know, where we were at, that she was able to tell the whole class, like, you know, my cousin did. It was her own cousin. So it's like, oh my God, like, kids do go through this stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
And then their parents work all day and they're at school, and then they go home on their tablets all day. So I think, thank you for this. Like, it just really just expanded me.
And if they're scared to say the word sex, then they're going to be scared to share these stories. So we want to empower them. We want to make it a safe space. So totally. And last question that I have is, what stigmas do you think we need to start breaking? I mean, we've touched on a few throughout this conversation, but if there's any other ones that stand out to you that you think we should, you know, I don't know. Get
That's
rid
a
of.
good one.
Thank
I
you.
think a big stigma is that the guy should know what he's doing in bed. It's like we need to get rid of that because
Yeah.
it like messes our own experience for because we're expecting something like going there as in like we're both gonna learn how to do this together because just like you know you could have a sexual experience with one person and with another you could try to mimic but it's just not the vibe like it's gonna be a different vibe and you gotta roll with that. So I feel like getting rid of that stigma that the guy should know what he's doing and he like should know how to read your mind, like how to pleasure you. It's like no, like you should know, like I said, grab that mirror, go explore yourself, touch yourself. If you're not ready to touch yourself, that's fine, but it's like after that, like be comfortable with just seeing what makes you feel good. Like guys, pleasure, like pleasure feels so good. Like don't, you could do that all day if you want. I mean, you know, pleasure, 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 you know. And it's like there's nothing wrong with that either because there's people with really high sex drive, really high, and that's another stigma that like, oh, it's bad. No, like explore it, and if you feel like it works for you to have different partners, like roll with what works for you, you know, because sexuality is different for everybody. Just like nutrition, I'm sure a lot of people are realizing that like, oh, one nutrition plan doesn't fit everybody. Like the chicken, broccoli, and rice, before everybody was on that. Like, oh my God, that's the secret formula. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, never mind. Like everybody has to eat different, you know. So I'm like, forget the diets, forget everything. Like just so same with sex. Forget the rules, forget the expectations, forget everything. Like be so open-minded to the point where you're like, maybe you could be with the same sex person as me, still be as open to be like, yeah, it could be like that. Because it's like I said, sex is an energy. It's not, and it's in a person, and that person might be different than when you expect, and you should be so open to your energy that you are willing to explore it. So I feel like that's where it starts.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes. Oh my God. Absolute. That like whole last sentence right there was just so powerful and people need to hear it. Absolutely. And honestly, above all else, I think it's really important to root ourselves in the belief that we are deserving of pleasure, right? And it's not all about, you know, at the very least pleasing, but it's about really stepping into your power, knowing that you're deserving of it in every avenue of life, but especially with sex, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel that like I hold myself back from a lot of things because I haven't had sex like in a long time. Like it has happened very randomly and weirdly, like I said. And it's just like I feel like I don't deserve things outside of that. Like it's just like subconsciously you sabotage yourself. You know, mentally you're on it, but like deep down you always find ways to sabotage yourself.
Yeah.
And instead I feel like I did that for a while, that pattern of going for the people who I knew weren't gonna be like energetically there for me. I always went for them because I knew that I was like, I deserve that. Like in that point, I'm like, I deserve just that. And it's like, no, you know, but you have to learn what you want. So take time to explore yourself, take time to listen to conversations like these, exploring conversations like these, you know, and just grow from there because there's so much. Like I don't think we'll ever stop learning. I'm like, oh my God, I don't have enough time.
I don't have enough time, literally me. I get like you get addicted to learning, honestly, but this is a conversation that I think we really all need to have. And I'm so grateful that you were the one to lead us through it because just above all else, it's a matter of releasing expectation and knowing that whatever feels right is right. Respect your boundaries, respect other boundaries, and know that you we're all divine beings. It's just a matter of, you know, stepping into that and trusting that and then feeling empowered by it. So thank you for your light. Oh my God. I mean, I can't, you are going to be doing such incredible things and educating not only just kids, but women and people and men who need to hear this kind of stuff, you know?
It's important. We should not leave men behind. Like,
No.
you know, better men, we need to be better women, but bring them with us, you know? Don't just be like such a feminist where it's like woman. No, it's like men too. We need the man.
We need the men, absolutely, especially because this is a whole other conversation, but like men watch pornography just as much as women do, but like that can also give you a false sense of what sex is supposed to be in reality. Kind of it's an energy exchange and it's empowering and it's beautiful, and you know, ask questions. Don't, you know, talk to your friends about it. I think all of the times we feel shame and fear of what our experience is and we compare it to others, and in reality, you know, we're all experiencing the same things. We're all have the same questions, all the same insecurities. just is what it
Yes,
is.
everybody always has. I had that topic yesterday where I was like, oh, I was with like 4 people, and I just randomly asked them. I was like, hey guys, what describe your sexual life in 3 words, and they're like not satisfied, and they're just saying things like that, and it was just like, really, and they're like, yeah. So when you start having those conversations, like, oh, we're all on the same page, like,
We're all on the same page.
I thought you were like, having the time of your life, and you're like, nope, so
Exactly.
it's super important. Thank you for being such like a fire force here, honestly. Like,
Thank you,
knew that you had it, and it's
Absolutely.
just
No, I adore you.
this opportunity to be here and
Yes.
just unravel so organically and
Oh my God, of course. I could have talked to you for hours, honestly. I just want to like keep it in a place where it's cohesive. But where can the people find you? Do you want just Instagram, Orgasmic Frequency?
Orgasmic Frequency. And I think it would be so awesome, because if if people want to hear more, I would love to hop on like on another like specific topic. Maybe you can ask them what would they like to hear.
Yes.
And I would be so down to continue collab on something. Like, it would be
no, please. I would love to have you back, and I think we could definitely talk about just like sexual education, just in different avenues, because there's so many ways we could go about it, and even talking about pornography and talking about getting to know your own like vulva and what that means and stuff, and breaking stigma. So I'll definitely do
the vagina. I feel like we don't even know. We're like, we have more than one hole, and it's like, yes, we do, honey.
Yes, girl. But I adore you, and I'm so excited to see you blossom in your work. But yeah. For you guys watching, thank you for watching. Please follow her. If you want to follow up with me, you can watch me on YouTube, on Instagram, lialuna.tv. And yeah, I hope you guys are all empowered, standing in your bodies and holding it as a sacred temple. Queens, kings, all of you. Perfect.